So this right here is Acer's offering in the 14-inch gaming laptop segment where competition is really fierce. This is the Acer Predator Triton 300 SE, and it's gotten a well-needed refresh in 2022 with a slightly newer design, updated 12th gen Intel processors, and a mux switch. But again, as mentioned, competition is pretty fierce, so how does this stack up? Now, first of all, it is interesting to note that you only get one color option available when choosing this laptop, and it's this brilliant silver. Honestly, we are all for it because it does make the gaming laptop stand out from the crowd a little bit, but also helps to mask the true nature of the beast, looking perfectly great in any professional setting. Apart from the unique rear vents and the presence of a really small Predator logo near the lip, that's about it. It's a really minimalistic design that's really clean and neat. It also does come in at just about 1.7 kilograms or about 3.7 pounds, which makes it fairly portable as well. Now lift up the lid and you'll be greeted with a pretty fantastic high refresh rate IPS display. We are looking at a 14-inch IPS panel with a resolution of 2560 by 1600 running at 165Hz. They'll cover 100% sRGB and can get up to a pretty amazing 500 nits in max brightness. Compared to the previous generation, this is quite the huge upgrade and it's a definite welcome. Watching your favorite shows or movies on Netflix, or just downright gaming for hours on end, and you'll enjoy pretty much every second of it. The colors are nice and vibrant, and it does have a great contrast ratio for IPS, and a high refresh rate really does make the gaming experience that much better. Overall, it's just a solid display that wouldn't disappoint. But now let's talk about the keyboard and the trackpad experience. Despite being a 14-inch form factor, you do get a keyboard that pretty much spans the entire deck of the chassis. In addition, you also do get a column of additional functions on the right side, just above the arrow cluster. These keys gives you immediate access to your media controls, as well as a dedicated Predator Sense key and a power button. On the other side, you also get a dedicated turbo button that will instantly toggle the power profiles. The typing experience is really nice in our opinion, with a good amount of key travel and kind of a soft landing with every stroke. The keyboard is also backlit with blue LEDs, which is a nice touch to the whole Predator theme. One particular thing we did notice is the fact that this keyboard features slightly larger spacing between each key compared to the norm. Or rather, it looks a little bit more classic, harking back to the old laptops when the chiclet keyboard was first introduced. One benefit from doing so is that there is little to no flex on the keyboard deck, since there is just more structural support thanks to the presence of more aluminum. Overall, it's a solid typing experience. The same can also be said for the trackpad. It tracks well, it has a nice smooth surface that's easy on your fingers, and it also has a fingerprint reader in the corner. The only drawback that we feel would be the size of it. We do wish it was just a little bit bigger. But on to the good stuff. One of the best things about this laptop is the battery life. This has a pretty large 76 Wh battery inside it, which enables a really good battery life for about 8 to 9 hours easily. Given the amount of performance that this can dish out and the size of the laptop, it's rather good. 2 thumbs up here. Moving to ports, well, you are well covered. On the right, you get a standard USB 3.2 Gen 2, HDMI 2.1 and a 3.5mm combo jack. On the left, you have your DC input, another USB 3.2 Gen 2 and Thunderbolt 4. But now let's talk specs. This little beast is equipped with an Intel Core i7-12700H, a GeForce RTX 3060 with a 95W TDP, 16GB of DDR5 5200MHz RAM, and 1TB of PCIe 4.0 SSD storage. Now before we get to the performance, we do want to open it up and show you the inside. And you do get a dual fan assembly here with the new arrow blade design. The interesting thing to note here is that only the CPU gets all the neat upgrades. Acer is using liquid metal for the thermal interface for the CPU, and it also gets the metal fan for better cooling. While at it, you also want to note that the RAM is soldered on, so there's no upgrading once you've decided the amount you want in your card. However, you can upgrade the SSD should you want to do so. In any case, let's now talk about performance. We first tested with Cinebench R23 as usual, and with the help of Predator Sense, we tested 3 different profiles, namely on Default, Extreme and Turbo. With each profile, you're looking at an increase of anywhere between 400 to 600 points in the multi-core, while the overall points for the single core remains relatively the same. As for video editing with Resolve, we would say that all the profiles are going to give you really great results. But if you're concerned about noise with the fans, well, we would say that you would likely want to stick with the extreme or the standard default profile. But most importantly, let's dive into gaming. For our testing, we ran a few popular games at both 1440p and 1080p resolutions and also made sure the mux switch is on and we're using the dedicated GPU. As expected, the Core i7 and RTX 3060 combo makes for an excellent gaming experience. Esports titles like CSGO or Valorant are of no issues at all, while even more demanding AAA games like Halo Infinite are perfectly enjoyable as well, achieving way above 60 frames per second. In fact, depending on the game, you could even run it at 4K with an external monitor. But here is where things get a little divisive, and it's got to do with temperatures depending on the task. For CPU-intensive tasks like rendering, temperatures for the CPU aren't great at all. On the default profile, it is still rather acceptable with that Core i7 drawing up to 55 watts and maintaining 90 degrees Celsius thereabouts. However, turn it to extreme or turbo mode and you'll see the CPU drawing up to 65 watts or more and staying at 100 degrees Celsius throughout. Now, while it does maintain clock speeds at 3 GHz, which is way above the base clock, we would say that this really isn't desirable for most people. We would much rather have a less aggressive power profile and one that's more optimized for temperatures instead, because in a compact 14-inch form factor, that heat is really going to build up and it will affect the other components inside it as well. In the long run, of course. However, if you're just strictly talking about gaming experiences, well, the temperature is actually going to be pretty fantastic and downright ideal. In a game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is more GPU demanding, you'll see the CPU hovering around 70 degrees Celsius with clock speeds near the base clocks. While in a game like Valorant, which is more CPU demanding, you'll see the CPU hovering around 85 degrees Celsius with clock speeds pushing 4 GHz. So it is kind of interesting in a way. This laptop definitely favors gaming more so than anything, and in that regard, it performs admirably. But if you're looking at it in a more professional setting for a professional task, it might not really cut it. And thus, we come to the price. For this exact configuration, it'll set you back just under 3,000 Singapore dollars or about 1,600 US dollars. Though to note, the US configuration will only have half the SSD storage. Compared to the competition from the likes of Asus, Alienware or Razer, this is definitely the most affordable of the bunch, and performance is equally as good, if not better. Yes, you can of course get the Asus with the much more powerful Radeon RX 6800S or the Razer with the top-of-the-line RTX 3080. But those are going to cost way more. Spec for spec, this is of much better value. But as we've noted, this is definitely more of a gaming powerhouse compared to a professional workhorse. In that regard, as long as you know what you're getting into and you understand that you're getting this laptop just mostly for gaming, you'll be plenty happy with it. And honestly, we don't really like it. If you have any questions, let us know in the comment section down below. If you'd like to, do check out the affiliate links as well. If you do, thanks for the support. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Till the next one, see ya!